all of your submissions. So I'm really excited to go over those. Sorry. Okay, and then so we'll dedicate some time to go over that. And then also we'll introduce a new aspect of success metrics. You may have seen it included in some of the example PRDs. So we'll just go a little more in depth of like kind of what they are, what they include, and how they can help you better organize the objectives for a product. So first off, we're gonna kind of review each other's PRDs. So how I did it is I kind of just copied and pasted everyone's submission. So you don't see who actually is the owner of the document. And then our goal is to post one like praise and one constructive comment to at least 2 documents. So everyone should in total make 4 comments. And we're gonna take some like time, like 10 minutes to just like grind it out now. So you won't have anything to do after this boot camp. But I guess for the people who aren't here, I guess talking for the recording, yeah, it's just a mini homework. But just please try to, again, leave 2 comments for 2 documents by next boot camp session. But yeah, so do y'all have computers? If not, okay. But yeah, so I attached the link to the product management Notion page in the bootcamp project milestone portion. There should be a link that says like bootcamp PRDs or something. Yeah, basically, okay. Oh, I need to share screen. Technical difficulty. Yeah, I don't use Mac. Okay. Okay, so is it recording? Yes. Okay, awesome. So thank you for peer reviewing everything. And again, for the recording, we are going through all of the other submitted PRDs, and everyone should leave at least 2 comments for or constructive criticism and a praise for 2 different documents by next bootcamp. And the link will be on the product Notion page. So yeah, please let me know if you aren't able to find it or have trouble accessing them. But so, oh yeah, and then going over reviewing some of the submissions, I feel like could specify kind of the difference between features versus components a little more. So again, features are like kind of the main things you can retrieve from the user stories. Let's say the user story is like, oh, as a listener, I want to be able to search a song so that I can play a specific song that's in my mind. And then components, again, should be, so features should be almost like an action task. And then the components are, let's say, how do you describe components? But components are aspects within that action in order to make that action feasible. So in order to search a song, you need a search bar, and you also need search results. And then you can, the detail within it can vary. People like have done like, oh, search results based on artist, and search results based on song title association. That can be like subjective, and it's really up to the product manager. But again, like, yeah, that the differentiation between feature and components can be a little confusing, but please let me know if you have any more questions towards that. And yeah, we can get started on talking about success metrics. So like I mentioned before, there are some examples from last year's PRDs that may have included success metrics and like kind of quantitative numbers regarding the product. And success metrics are specific criteria on which you can judge a project based by the end users and the nonprofits. And these criteria are specific to each project and its requirements and also the use cases that the partners request. So there are kind of ways to gauge if a project is successful and how to really measure the success again of like what you're developing. And as a product manager, you will be responsible for sharing the progress you make of these success metrics to your nonprofit partners, whether it be through like the weekly checkups and just like expressing it verbally, like, oh, this is how we're doing, this is the progress towards this metric, or whether it be adding a specific section within the PRD and updating that as well. Oh yeah, that also reminds me. In the PRD template, some of you like brought up like, oh, there's also like the kind of the progress column in the product components table, and also like kind of development options, like whether it's front end, back end, and like, oh, whether it's in progress, in the backlog, completed. So sorry, I didn't mention that in the last presentation. That completely slipped my mind. But yeah, those are table or the columns you can include in your table. It's completely optional, but I feel like it's also very helpful in order to like kind of communicate, you know, again, the progress of each component and put it in an approachable manner for your nonprofit to understand, okay, these components are done and these are like up next or in progress. So, and it'll also help like gauge what are the next steps in order to complete the feature table. But yeah, again, that part is optional, but strongly encouraged. But sorry, that was a tangent. I just like that suddenly came up in my mind. But back to success metrics. So the context of success metrics is that we need to really effectively identify the metrics that will determine how successful the project is. Just because it's like, oh, it's completed, it works, it really also depends on if it's actually helpful for the nonprofit. And a lot of factors that can affect the kind of how you measure the success metric is the time frame. For example, like how long will this project be used for like the users, how proficient they are with tech, and then does it affect the other work and efforts within the organization. So yeah, by addressing these questions, you can help address the big question, which is what are we addressing with this project? How is this project helping the specific users? How is it being done within the time frame? So some example, like for the Hospice of Slow PRD, one of the success metrics is like, oh, like half of the volunteers should be able to be signed up within a month. And then within the next month, all of the volunteers should be registered. So something along those lines. And again, there's also many different tools within success metrics that can, again, help measure and what's it called? Gauge how like the progress of development and how it's being achieved. And one of them that we'll be going over are key performance indicators, or KPIs. And they are crucial performance metrics that help evaluate the success of a particular activity. So again, it's just like kind of another version of a success metric. And what's different about these is that they are quantifiable goals tailored to specific objectives within like product features and also how you plan on achieving them. So there are different types of KPIs. In the industry, there are business metrics, which is how well the business model is performing, like revenue, product engagement metrics, which is how are users actually using the product and how effectively they're retaining it. And that kind of connects to the core functions of the application and how the user, again, interacts with the different features. And product quality metrics, which is how reliable the product is. And again, because we work with nonprofits, we don't really touch business metrics, but it is a very important aspect of industry KPIs. So, putting it out there. So we really focus on product engagement and product quality. And these are the key steps in establishing a KPI, or really like kind of formulating it in your brain. Just got this online, but you first have to identify, like, okay, what does the nonprofit need, and how do you reflect that in a quantitative manner? Quantitative meaning trackable, like recordable through numbers. Then you create the KPI. That can be, again, just putting it on the PRD, or maybe making, just like having it in the back of your head somewhere, or making it a list offset. So you just like have it in your mind to constantly check up on. And then during development, you have to constantly evaluate how well are these goals being met based on the KPIs. And then based on how well the development is going, you may need to change your strategy towards development, or being like, or to the tech lead, like, oh, hey, we are not meeting, I don't think we're gonna meet this goal. How can we kind of change the structure of our sprints to help achieve it, or to help fix this certain feature that has like a lot of bugs? We need to like kind of redirect that. And then lastly is assess, maybe near the end of development. You also need to like constantly need to check whether or not the KPI still aligns with the nonprofit's goals and the overall like purpose of the platform, and adjust if needed. So going through like some industry examples, some product managers base or have like a goal based on monthly reoccurring revenue. And they constantly look at that and it's like, oh, if we're underperforming, what needs to be changed? What can we do to kind of, achieve that goal, and like know that our performance is like, can be improved. For engagement, there's like daily active users and session duration, both of which, can be measured by numbers, and also through like some services online that help measure the engagement. And there are many different aspects within engagement that you can measure. Like, for example, Robinhood is like, oh, there's like trading. And it's like, oh, I guess more trades, the better. That means like more trades, the product is good. But you also need to see like, oh, maybe there is a lot of trades being conducted, but not a lot of deposits. And maybe they consider that as like a necessary success metric and something to achieve within the product. So it is like, there's a lot of different aspects of success and performances that, may differ between every organization. And it's up to you as a product manager to really identify what is best measured and evaluated throughout development. And lastly, like kind of quality performance is kind of like, oh, does it crash a lot? How many bugs do we have? If there's like a lot of bugs in a specific feature you find, it's like, okay, maybe we should like designate some developers towards that feature for this sprint to like try to debug it. And yeah. And then, so like maybe examples specific for a hack for impact, because again, we don't have like a business aspect. So what can we really measure? Of course, like the platform and application should be usable, and like each page should fully load under 4 seconds. And that's like kind of a big range. It should load faster, but a lot of times, like if the pages take like longer than that, it's like almost like unusable. So it's really important to kind of like check up on it. It's like, okay, we're adding a lot of features onto this page. Is it still like helpful, or is it still working properly? And if it isn't reaching this objective, how can you approach it with the tech lead to try and make sure that it's up to performing quality? And then, like I mentioned before, you can keep track of number of bugs or the crash list. And then you can also keep track, you can also use KPIs to assess the performance of the internal team. So you can assess the kind of balance between sprint tasks assigned versus completed. Say like, oh, you establish a KPI like, oh, you want like 100% of all the tasks assigned to be completed. And then, over the development, you realize, okay, that's not really being met. So you can either kind of approach it with the tech lead to like try and improve how the tasks are being assigned, or maybe just lessen the tasks assigned. And yeah, so it really helps kind of organize the team and also the performance of the application. So why are they important? So they are under success metrics and they are like industry practice. A lot of them use it as just like to track features that are deemed crucial for the success of the project or like product that is being, given to millions of users. And for like an organizational standpoint, it really helps clarify the goals throughout development. And it helps because they're quantifiable, it really helps identify like kind of the technical initiatives needed and also help create milestones to gauge progress and engagement throughout development and making sure that progress is being made towards achieving and maintaining the KPI. And it also helps with weekly assessment and again, ensuring the progress aligns with the PRD. So that's also why like some PRDs may include KPIs because it's like having all the information in a centralized document and making sure like having updated information is easily accessible for the nonprofit, and like having it in a visible format is also very helpful too, which is why KPIs are sometimes included. But yeah, there's KPI basics, which could be useful if you want to check out more KPIs and like kind of industry examples. And I also got a lot of this information from IME 470, which is actually a class offered in Cal Poly that's all about product management. I personally didn't take it, but Tim did, and then he shared the slides with me. So if you ever want to learn more about it, you can like let me know. I'll send in the slides, or you can also just check out the class too, because I think that would be really useful. But yeah, that's it for KPIs. Thank you so much for coming. And for those listening to recording, again, please leave 2 comments to 2 documents each by next boot camp. And next boot camp we'll be resuming building onto the PRD for the second half. And that's where we'll be exploring user journeys, user flows, and product roadmaps, which are very crucial for establishing the timeline of development. And it's also a great aspect to collaborate with tech lead and design. So we'll be introducing that, and then we'll be finishing the project next week. But yeah, thank you.